Hello everyone, Ron here from L.T.L Tutoring Central, and it is time. You might be wondering, it is time for what? It is time to register for summer lessons. At least in this part of the world, summer is coming, and it's time to register for some lessons. If you're local, I teach here in the big table. If not, I do teaching online, so I am registering new students. To be honest, I register students at any time. You can start in the middle of the month, beginning, end, and at any time of the year. But summer is coming, so I thought I'd make a video about registering for some summer lessons and get starting on tutoring. It can be very, very helpful. And it doesn't really take a lot of time. A little bit more about that later. But also in this video, in fact, most of this video is about things you can do at home to continue learning during the summer, and you should continue learning even as an adult, but I'm talking primarily here about your children or grandchildren. So what can you do? Card games, board games, and there's often video versions of those as well. And you're looking for learning moments, and they might not be all academic learning moments. There's lots of things you can learn while playing games. And if possible, offer them choices. Let them take the lead. Now that would depend on the age of the child and the skill level, etc. But once you start playing some games, they may have favorites. They may want to play certain games and not others. If you're forcing it, it's probably not going to work all that well, although you may have to be a little bit firm in the beginning just to get things rolling and get things started. But once they start having fun, once they start really enjoying themselves, they'll often take the lead on their own. Not everything has to be a teachable moment either. Keep that in mind. Sometimes people can go over the top. We're supposed to be using this game to teach, so let's teach. It doesn't have to be like that. You might be surprised at the volume of teaching moments that just come up organically as you're playing the games, and it doesn't have to be academic. It doesn't have to be drills, and it doesn't have to be forced. There's a lot of social learning that goes on when you're playing games, and it's important for people to learn how to be a good loser, but also learn how to be a good winner, so they can learn how to be humble and appreciative of the other players and to be helpful. Sometimes they can even teach someone else to play the game or give them helpful tips. And so you do want to learn how to lose well and recognize that this is not a judgment of personal value. It's not saying anything about you as a person. You just lost a game, that's it. The real gain is by working with others and having fun, and as I say, maybe even teaching others how to play the game or helping them learn new tactics or new methods or whatever. Also, you can learn patience and taking turns. And talking about learning that losing a game is not a judgment. It's not a judgment on your personal value. They may make a connection to the academic setting, and sometimes you can even sort of gently lean into that and say, the results that you're getting at school, that's not you. That's a result on a test or a quiz or a specific subject, but it isn't really you. And so losing the game isn't really you, and failing a test or having a difficult time in a course or even at school in general, that's not a judgment on you as a person. You're still a good person. You have a lot of great qualities, and you may become better in math or reading or writing, as time goes on. So ironically, once you take the pressure off and they realize this isn't a personal judgment, usually their academic results improve anyway because they're more relaxed and they're able to remember things and they're able to study. So it's always important to do that when they're in school, but also when, as I say, the game playing is a great way to make that connection. So if you lose a game, it doesn't say anything else about you except that you weren't successful in this particular game. Many games have reading and or math skills within them, but you can also read the directions to any of the games. You can also read blogs about games, commentary about the games, or tricks or methods to play the game and improve your skills. So you can find lots of things online so that you can practice your reading skills. Lots of games have math skills within them, like cribbage or Uno or other games that aren't popping in my head right now, but playing with dice or card games often have some math skills involved. But apart from games, you can just read, and you should model reading. If you're the adult, you should sit down and read books for yourself, sometimes for enjoyment. If you're not a big reader, just start slowly, and you might find that you fall right into it. I know people who weren't readers at all when they were younger adults, and as they got older, all of a sudden they got into it, and now they're avid readers. So but modeling reading really helps, and it gives you something to talk about, and your children will see how excited you are and how interested you are in various topics and books. And it can be fiction, it could be nonfiction, doesn't really matter. But if they see interest in reading, then they're more likely to want to do it themselves. And also you can look for books or magazines, articles that the child is interested in. Again, that'll be different for different ages and personalities, but and again, as soon as possible, let them take the lead and tell you or show you what they're interested in, what they want to read, and then encourage them to talk about that as well, because having conversation is very important. Also writing, they can create their own blog, they could keep a journal, they could write about the things they're reading, they could write about the games they're playing, or it could be just something completely different, what's happening in their day. But you can practice writing skills over the summer as well. As I say, talk about the games, the movies, the books, travels that you have, anything really. Conversation is very important, and having more in-depth conversation or discussions can go a long way to helping children with reasoning, logic, and writing. And at first, sometimes children don't want to open up too much. Some children are more quiet than others. But if you keep trying, and if you talk yourself, you don't have to force it, but just talk yourself. Just keep talking. Eventually, they might get tired of you talking and decide, gee, I better talk, so he stops talking. Use open-ended questions like why, what, how, rather than closed-ended questions. So open-ended questions can't be answered with just a yes or a no, right? So what did you think of that character in the movie or in the book or whatever? Or how do you think they should have handled that situation? They can't just say yes or no to that. So you want to make sure you use as many open-ended questions as possible, particularly if your child tends to be very quiet and doesn't express themselves very well. You want to use open-ended questions. Some children just talk anyway. You don't even have to encourage them very much, and they'll just keep on going, so you don't have to worry. But that's a good thing to keep in mind, that open-ended questions encourage more conversation. And then you can, again, you don't need to tell, you just need to gently lead. Or not even lead, just sort of direct and listen too. It's surprising what you can learn from your own children. I'm always surprised what I learn from my own students. They're always telling me things. Sometimes they're silly, sometimes they're completely factually incorrect, but sometimes they're correct, or sometimes it's just a new way of thinking about something, and you know what? They might actually have something there. So I spend time thinking about it, and then maybe later we'll discuss it again. So that's just a few tips to get you started. The main idea is to have fun. Learning should be fun. It should not be a drag. It should not be all drills, although some children love drills. So if they do, go ahead. They like to test themselves. I have students just this week asking me, I want to test. And you might think I'm lying, but it happens more often than you think. And it's because there's not a huge pressure. It's just they want to see whether they can do better than they did last time. They know that if they don't, I'm not going to make a personal judgment on them. It's not going to be the end of the world. We just keep practicing and we move on. And and if you're interested in registering for tutoring lessons, just check in the description. Email is probably the best way to get in touch, and we can set up a free information meeting, or if you're ready to start, we can just get going. And I mentioned earlier, it doesn't take a lot of time. My most common tutoring program takes about 16 hours of the available 1,464 hours of July and August. So 16 hours compared to 1,464 is not a lot. So sometimes children, even sometimes students who started here before the summer and then find out they're going to come in the summer, oh, I have to do tutoring in the summer too. And it's like, yes, it's 16 hours or less sometimes. Obviously they have holidays. We work around the holidays, and so it's not a lot of time. You still have, most days you have 24 hours. Generally I do 2 hours a week. So it's very little time to dedicate to something that is so important. And as I say, once they start having fun with it and it becomes consistent, it's just second nature. And I also do have students who remind their parents, hey, we have to go to Ron's tonight. So it's sometimes the students that end up promoting their own education, which is great. That's super. I don't want to pretend that always happens. Of course, some are reluctant as well, but many times once they get into the routine, they do love learning. Everyone loves learning. Where people are curious. People are curious creatures. We always love to learn new things. It's just how you go about it that can make it enjoyable or not so much. So try to make it as enjoyable as you can. All right, it is Ron from L.T.L Tutoring Central. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed. I really appreciate it. Check in the description for other ways you can help the channel as well. And as I say, to register if you would like. In the meantime, keep learning, keep having fun. Bye-bye for now.